Hi, since I last did this a couple of days ago, a lot has happened. A lot and almost nothing somehow. Maybe it's because it's the Christmas break, but the resignation of Lord Frost last night from the cabinet, from the government, over questions of COVID masks and ostensibly the things that he has talked about is really very interesting because it allows us a glimpse into the way the Tory party is constituted. Um, because Lord Frost, in many ways, is part of the old guard of Thatcherite. One of the areas where the term neoliberal is can be used quite cogently. He is part of that. This is the first group that I want to talk about. He is part of that group that owes its allegiance to Thatcherism, neoliberalism, to the reduction of the role of the state, to deregulation, to low taxes. Probably he's a flat tax person. Um, all those areas where the state gets involved in regulating and moving the market around and regulating the market so that its worst consequences aren't visited upon the poorest in society. So it's this is a really, really important part of the Tory party. It's a Tory party, part of the Tory party, however, that cannot stand the idea that COVID has brought about some sort of medical socialism, this love affair with the NHS. They cannot stand it at all. They kowtow to it, and they recognise that politically it's really important, but they are the original headbangers, the Betonkopfer in German, the concrete heads, who cannot accept the role of the state in the running of the economy or have any influence over the role of the economy, the running of the economy. Sorry, I need a haircut. This is really getting quite out of control. The bird's eye fish fingers look is quite good, but there are limits. Anyway, that's the first group. The second group, what you might call the red wall group, less easily defined, but they are also deregulators. They come in from the Thatcherite viewpoint of the small state and reducing the role of the state in the running of the economy. But they are quite prepared and have moved in the direction of a sort of English nationalism. Um, they have taken over places like the red wall seats. I think they're very vulnerable. I don't think those red wall seats will stay conservative much longer now. Um, but they've taken over that role of being a populist, nationalist, um, English nationalist, and most importantly, English nationalist. Not, they have nothing to do with Scotland or Wales or other parts of the United Kingdom or the disunited kingdom. Or not a very original term, but it's what it's increasingly becoming. Um, so the English nationalist populists who have come in on the Brexit tails, on the tails of the Brexit party. However, the Brexit party itself has broken up and is now the Reform Party, and the Reform Party is really closer to the first group I talked about, which are the Thatcherite Tories. I noticed that in their election material, they're very much propagating the small state Thatcherite agenda. which of course is what the Brexit Party was originally. The original attack of these people on the European Union was not some sort of, well, only partly some sort of nationalist patriotic front. They only did that for electoral gain, played up the nationalist card. Actually, what they couldn't stand about the EU is that it is a social state. It's lots of countries cooperating for the benefit of all. So from each according to their ability, to each according to their needs, that old Christian / Marxist phrase. So that each country in the EU shifts the burden around as much as possible. It's not perfect. It doesn't work entirely properly. But it is a step forward towards internationalization, and the internationalization of the state. Sooner or later, it will need an army and a central bank and blah, 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 all those other things that the Brexit Party and the right wing have warned about for years. They've warned about quite rightly. Not the Turkey business. Turkey is not going to join the EU. It never was. It'll have some sort of barrier status. But the Brexit Party was originally a deregulation party. If you look at what's his name? Nigel Farage. History repeats itself. The first time as tragedy, the second time as Farage. If you look at where they originally stood, they were very clearly deregulators. Farage himself was very much in favour of selling off the NHS, for example. You wouldn't get away with that now as part of your political platform. But exposing it to private market forces. So all parts of the state run sector should be exposed to private market forces. That, and the Tories are still wedded to that idea, even if in the short term they have moved towards a bigger role for the state, as what you might call medical Keynesianism. It was attacked in Parliament the other day by Rosie, so I can't remember her name, as a socialist agenda. Ha ha ha! If only. No, it's just a short-term medical Keynesianism, boosting state spending and higher taxes, just in order to overcome this short-term crisis brought on by COVID. So the third group, and it's a group which has largely been expelled from the party now and is largely irrelevant. It's closer to the Liberal Democrats, is on the left of the Tory party, which is a pro-European Christian Democrat tradition, basically, which people like Chris Patten and Dominic Grieve and Justine Greening and those sorts of people. So people who would not be out of place in the CDU, in the German CDU, Christian Democrats, basically. Whether they're Christians or not, I don't know. But they are essentially within that grouping of a European Christian democratic tradition. They're the Rory Stewarts. Jim, if you watch this, the sorts of people that you love, basically the European Catholic centrists who will take over, who try to hold on to those Christian central values, but not Christian values in the way that, say, Eastern Europeans like Orban and the rest of them try to defend Europe against this seeming onslaught of Islam. Ha ha! It just doesn't exist. There is, it's a non-existent crisis. The Great Replacement theory, etc. Oh, it's gone again. Right, I must change that so that it doesn't close down. So we've got three groups in the Tory party. There's the European group, which have more or less been sidelined and expelled. There's the European Reform Group, the people who really want to get out of Europe and have played the populist message in which the state plays a role. And then there's the Frosty group, if you like, the group around Frost, who cleave to the original project, which is to reject the EU as too state interventionist. Perhaps in a later broadcast, I'll talk more about the ways in which other parts of the political spectrum responded to the EU. We can look at the left and Lexit, and Jeremy Corbyn's position, and Labour's position, and Keir Starmer's position, and as well. But at the moment, I just wanted to point to those three groups within the Tory party. Now, the two main groups, the libertarian original Thatcherite group around Frost, the Frosties, if you like, they would be quite happy to see the European Union, and of course this is part of their project, to destroy the European Union, because they are essentially Atlanticists. They would like to see the European Union be destroyed, and the centrifugal forces to push the countries off into some other orbit, God knows where, probably Russia. That's why they're quite soft on Russia. And while Britain drifts off and becomes even closer to the United States, make trade deals with the United States is the primary concern they have. That was okay under Trump, but Biden is a very different. Biden is a very different kettle of fish. I nearly said Catholic of fish, because he is a Catholic and he's closer to that European Catholic centrist tradition, and he would rather work more closely with the European Union and not so closely with an independent United Kingdom or an independent England or whatever it will be. So there's all these groups within the right, within the Tory party, and within the Reform Party. And Frost's resignation is a kind of indication of how these groups are at war with each other. If Boris Johnson is brought down, it will be not because of various different scandals. I mean, nobody gives a shit about how many children he has, and whether he has affairs, and there are parties going on at Christmas and that sort of thing. Of course, it's important politically, but actually it doesn't matter structurally. Structurally, Boris Johnson would be brought down by these warring groups within the Tory party between over Europe, whether or not we cooperate with Europe or whether or not we try to destroy Europe in our wake, the sort of scorched earth policy as we leave the EU, which people like Frost have tried to pursue. Ironic that a man called Frost wants to pursue a scorched earth policy, but there we are. So that's all basically that I wanted to talk about today. Where that leaves us is a different question. At the end of this process will be a weakened and divided Tory party. Whether or not it's divided and weakened enough to actually lead to the removal of Johnson and his clique and replacement with somebody else is a different question. and one which will unfold over the coming weeks, I think. At the moment, it could go either way. Johnson could be ousted by the Tory party, but at the same time, he's still quite popular in some ways. And also, they've got to think about who to replace him with, and that's not an easy answer. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there for now. It's not. These are just ramblings, as you can see probably. But I hope that they shine some light on the debate. Thank you. See ya.